Hey everyone, this is Duke from DeebzHub, and I am so happy to be back after a very long break with kids in grad school to upload more content for the Dragon Ball Super card game community. I absolutely love this game, and I absolutely love this deck that we're going to be talking about. This is the newest version of my mono green Broly. A lot of time has passed since that Series 1 build. Now we're in Series 3 with the tournament power approaching at the end of the month, followed by Series 4, and a lot's happened in the metagame, a lot's happened to this deck, and I'm very excited to go over it with you. Mono green with a little bit of an asterisk. It has black cards in it, but it doesn't require black mana to run, or black energy, sorry. But yeah, it's mono green, it runs the Veggie package, it runs a Broly Evolve package. So without any further delays, let's get into the deck list. So we got Broly leader, right? So on his front and his back, pretty similar. He has a permanent that he can't attack battle cards, which kind of sucks, but with a Broly deck, you're going to be blowing them up, not attacking them anyway. Auto, on the front, when this card attacks, both players choose a card and place it in the drop area. If you have Broly's ring, then this doesn't affect you at all. It only affects your opponent, which is great. And when your life is at 4 or less, you can activate the Awaken, draw 2 cards, flip it over. Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan. Now when you swing, you draw a card, and then both players choose a card from their hand and a card from their battle area and drop those. So, as we mentioned before, Broly's ring protects your hand, and with the new Caulifla SR that Series 3 Crossworlds introduced, now our field is protected too. No longer do Broly players have to choose if they want to sacrifice their ring to generate that value. Now with Caulifla, we can protect everything. With Ring and Caulifla, Awakened Broly generates a metric crap ton of value when he swings, because you're gaining 1 and you're taking 2 from the opponent. Nuts. Absolutely amazing. Such a fun leader. He's currently my favorite in the game, which is why I play him. And this is why we have this deck. So let's get into the deck. So starting off the deck list, we're going to go with extra cards first, just because it's the smallest amount. It's easier to do that for me. 4 copies of Broly's ring. Now, why 4? I have the worst luck with Broly's ring. I've had games where I won't see it until turn 4 or turn 5, even running Paragus. Hell, I had a game where I turn 2'd for Paragus, and all 4 rings were in my life, and that was the worst game I've ever played. It was against a Soul Striker Goku too, back in Series 2. It was complete garbage. So I have to run 4 copies because I'm an unlucky scrub. But if your Broly deck is blessed by the gods, or you have better luck than me, or you're running a package with more card draw, like a blue-green variant, you can absolutely trim these down. But I run 4 because I'd rather be safe than sorry. The only other extra card in the deck is pretty standard. You gotta have a negate, right? Well, I run the black one, Time's Judgment. Now, I run 4 copies of Time's Judgment over full power energy because I find with full power energy, the value of the negate goes down as the game goes on. So you're not going to be seeing 1-drops as often, so that blow up a 1-drop isn't as important. Save for the clutch Saiyan Kaba coming in hot with that double strike to kill you. Time's Judgment doesn't lose its value as the game goes on. In fact, the value increases because now you can negate multiple times. Almost like a pseudo Whis coercion, kind of, not really, but you can get multiple uses out of this negate, which is why I choose this over full power energy. Now we'll get into battle cards. And first up, running Broly, gotta run Paragus. I run 4 copies of Paragus too, because again, I have the worst luck with Broly's ring, and I feel like I need it. And I can hear the comments now, or the people watching this in the back of your head. But Josh, DeebzHub, Paragus is useless after you get Broly's ring in play. You are absolutely correct. But you could make that argument for like X card when Y situation happens. All you're going to do is use them for a combo or charge them for energy. That's perfectly fine. When I have Broly's ring in play, now I know exactly what to charge for energy, so that's a luxury that some decks, they have to really stress about what to charge in their sequencing and their plays. You could argue now I'm just making up an excuse for Broly being shit, and that is a completely valid position for you to take. But I run 4 copies of Paragus because, again, like the rings, I'd rather be safe than sorry. If you are more confident in your build or you have more card draw, you see ring more often, go ahead, trim it down, by all means. But next up in the list, whoa, losing cards here. Next up in the list, standard for pretty much every green deck, 4 copies of the Super Combo. If you're a green Android, you're going to run Android 16. We're not an Android, so we run Trunks Protector of Children. When your life is a 4 or less, draw a card that gains 10,000 power. Absolutely clutch. You need to run 4 in every. Alright, if you haven't mashed the dislike button yet for the 4 ring and the 4 Paragus, you might do it now. 3 overflowing Bio Warrior Army. But before you hit that, hear me out for a second. With everybody playing the Veggie package, right? And every Broly deck pretty much running the Veggie package, they're going to target your Cauliflas. They're not going to let them sit. For those situations where you're low on life and you can't play Caulifla, or those situations where you just don't see it, Bio Warrior has saved my ass. Being a 2 for 15, being able to swing and deal damage just on its own, even before combos, it's pretty good. It came in clutch when I was playing against the Android deck. He didn't expect the Bio Warrior loop, but I did an old school Bio Warrior Broly, Bio Warrior KO, Bio Warrior combo for 5 damage, and that stole me the game. So, I mean, you definitely don't want to max him out. I think 3 is a good number. If you don't want to run Bio Warrior for whatever reason, then these 3 cards would probably be the first to chop, but in a best of 1, I absolutely love having this card because nobody sees it coming. Now we're getting into the ever popular, ever infamous Veggie package, which I'm sure you all know, but we're going to get into it. I run 4 copies of Sane Teamwork Kaba, that permanent reducing the costs and specified green costs of Cauliflas and Kales by 1. Absolutely nuts. More so with Kale than Caulifla, because if you get a Caulifla with the auto, which I'll get to in a second, you can play Caulifla for free. But being able to play a Kale for 3 mana, 1 green, or 2 mana colorless, what? That's insane for the value that Kale already gives you it being 4. But anyway, that auto. When you play this card, you look at the top 10, search for a Caulifla Kale added to your hand. If you get a Caulifla, you can play it. And the reason why is because Caulifla is amazing. 4 copies of Unstoppable Ambition Super Saiyan Caulifla. Straighten that out there so you can read it. So 4 copies of Caulifla. The first permanent is your battle cards can't be KO'd by your own skills. So that is pretty much a direct reference to Kale, because when you play Kale you have to blow something up. Caulifla, no longer have to do that. The second one is pretty much only catered to Broly specifically. Your battle cards can't be placed in the drop area by your own skills. So now that Awakened Broly leader we talked about, with Ring and her, you're completely covered. No longer have to sack any of your own guys when you swing. And when you play this card, you choose 1 card from your life and add it to your hand. So this is self-awakening. No longer feel forced to run Furious Yell, Vegeta, or the TN. Caulifla does the job. Does it a lot better in my opinion. And finally, in the Veggie package, 4 copies of Hidden Awakening Kale. Arguably the best 4-drop in the game, I would say. I personally would say it's the best 4 cost in the game, for sure. It's got critical. When you play it, yeah, you have to sack one of your own creatures, but again, if you have Caulifla, you don't. And if you have Bio Warrior, that's going to be the one you're going to use to set up the combo. And in exchange for that board destruction on yourself, you get a massive board wipe. All the tokens go away. Any cards with a total cost of 5 or less all go away. So if they try to go wide on you, or they have a really powerful battle card in play, just end it. And when this card attacks, if you have 5 or less cards in your hand, you get to draw a card. So 20k, a board wipe, card draw, critical, absolute money. Now we're going to get into that Broly chain, Broly engine, because you can't run a Broly deck without Broly. Well, I mean you could, but I don't. We're getting into the Broly chain now. 4 copies of Broly Dawn of the Rampage. You got your 1-drop. When you play it, you look at the top 7 of your deck for a green Broly, add it to your hand. What green Broly are you going to grab? Well, you got some options, but I'd wager the one you're going to grab most often is the new promo, Endless Evolution Broly. Man, a card has not made me geek out in such a long time when it got previewed. the permanent, when evolving this card into a Broly from your hand, the evolve cost is reduced by 2 specific green. So what that means is the Tournament Pack 1 Broly is going to evolve for 1 colorless. Bio Broly is going to evolve for 2 colorless. And SR Broly is going to evolve for 2 green, 1 colorless. Holy crap, that is an insane amount of value. This card single-handedly took the Broly engine from being niche in blue Vegeta decks and cute in others to being, holy crap, this could be a mainstay. And that's not even talking about the auto. When you play this card, your opponent chooses one of their battle cards and KOs it. Now, granted, you don't get to pick the card that gets blown up, but if you're controlling their board or you're reducing their options, they only have 1 or 2 cards in their battle area anyway, they're going to be important. They're going to get blown up. Nuts. Such an amazing promo. Next up the chain, another controversial inclusion in this deck list, but hear me out. 4 copies of the TP1. Now I run 4 of the TP1 because decks that like to go wide, and by go wide I mean play a bunch of battle cards, like Dr. Mew for example. Decks that go wide really hurt Broly, because Broly excels against decks that can only really play like 1 or 2 battle cards per turn. So this card, in combination with the Endless Evolution Broly, a nice 4 energy play is playing him and then evolving straight into him. You paid 4 energy to blow 2 things up. So that's nifty. On his own, you're not really going to play him for the 4, because being a double striker with 15 at a 4 cost is a little behind the curve. But you could definitely evolve him over the 1-drop too. You know, another 3 cost play. So I find him to be more valuable in my play testing than Bio Broly. So Bio Broly is actually in the sideboard, and we have 4 of these in the main board. So with Bio Broly, you know, spoiled, it's in the sideboard. Last, finishing it off, 4 copies of the SR, Broly the Rampaging Horror. I'm fortunate enough to have 4 of the SPR. I love this card. So it's a 6 cost, it's a 30k double striker. Absolutely huge body. When you play this card, choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's hand at random and place them in the drop area. So when their hand size is small, whatever they have in there is going to be super important, and you just get to see them cry when you drop it. In conjunction with that new promo, this becomes a 3-drop. Holy crap. It's amazing. It could already close games turn 6 if you have the optimal plays, but now you can just get him out even earlier. And him being a 30k body, unless they have a dedicated targeted destruction, it's going to cost them a lot of cards to swing into this card to get it off the board. So it's incredible. It's the game finisher for sure. And the last battle card in the main deck list is 3 copies of Relentless Destruction Mirror. Overwhelm for 3, if you have at least 3 cards in your drop area. Send them all to the warp and play this guy. You're never going to play him for 3 because you're not going to generate any value, because this auto only goes off when you play him via Overwhelm. And when you play him via Overwhelm, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and places it in the drop area. Broly loves hand destruction. This works really well. A cute interaction, or no, actually I shouldn't say cute, I should say really good interaction actually, is when you have Awakened Broly Leader, right? Let's say you're Awakened Broly, and you have a Broly's ring, and you don't really want to blow up your ring, but you really want to swing with Awakened Broly. What you can do is you can Overwhelm for Mira, and now you have something to target with Broly's auto. Mira will go to the drop area. Since he gets warped at the end of the turn, if he's sitting here anyway, you're not really losing anything. In fact, you're actually gaining advantage, because he only gets warped if he's in the battle area at the end of the turn. But you sent him to the drop area. So not only did you kind of cheat the Overwhelm and you cheated the Broly, but now that he's in the drop area and not warped, you have an additional card in there to Overwhelm later on with another copy, for example. So, and you know, overwhelming and then swinging, you're taking 2 out of their hand and 1 off their board. That's money right there. That's a lot of value. So now let's get into the sideboard. It's an all mono green sideboard too. Bear with me while I get it. First up in the sideboard, is 3 copies of King Vegeta's Surprise Attack. One of my favorite cards in Galactic Battle, one of my favorite cards in the game. It brings the salt. They're trying to swing into one of your Brolys that you know you're going to evolve into, or they're trying to take out your Kale, or any kind of value card you have in play. Drop down King Vegeta's Surprise Attack, give it revenge, make him suffer for it, punish him. Stellar. Next up is 3 copies of Sun Goten Family of Justice. Pretty standard sideboard card. When you combo with this card during your turn, you get a targeted destruction of a 3 cost or less. Pretty good. Fits with the theme of Broly decks. Again, Broly hates decks that go wide. So when you go into game 2 and you need to side this guy in to help you control their field. Next, 3 copies of Iron Hammer of Justice Android 16. Now this card was actually mainboarded for the longest time. Pre-Mecha Frieza errata with the apes and the GT and the veggie package and all that insanity. But since the errata, now it's in the sideboard because it's still a pretty valuable card. It's a blocker with revenge, and when it KOs a battle card, it stands itself back up. So similar to Sun Goten, against decks that go wide or very aggressive decks, Iron Hammer of Justice 16 comes in clutch. Next card at 3 copies in the sideboard is Energy Power Gotenks. For those decks that like to play a little bit more conservatively, for the decks that like to kind of slow the game similarly, you want to limit their options, and Energy Power Gotenks lets you do that by dealing damage and picking cards out of their hand, messing up with their sequencing. It was mainboarded in set 1 and set 2, but now it's in the side. Had to make room for the veggie package because it's ultimately more important in a best of 1, but it's still a great card. And finally in the sideboard, 3 copies of Bio Broly. Again, similar to the Gotenks, the decks that like to play a little slower, more conservatively, the ones that you want to really mess up their sequencing, you would side in Bio Broly. If you're thinking about making modifications to the Broly engine as I presented it in this video, you really want to run Bio Broly in it, then I would suggest reducing one of the SRs and then 1 to 2 of the TP ones. I know a really popular curve for the Broly evolution engine is like 2 of the TP1, 3 of the Bio, 3 of the SR, and I think that's okay. I think that's a pretty good ratio for sides, but again, this is in the sideboard for those matchups where they're not going wide, but you want to keep their hand under control and do some more evolution shenanigans. Still a great card. But anyway, that is my current version of Broly for Series 3. This is the deck that I plan on taking to Hartford, which is about a week and a half, May 19th, May 20th, I believe are the dates. Maybe some of you guys watching this video are snickering right now. Lol, this is a free win. Get that W from Broly. Hey, that's fine. You know what? We'll just see. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna keep it toned down. I'm not one to shit talk, but we'll see. This deck surprises a lot of people. It's done really well in play testing. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with how it's performed. Thank you guys very much for taking the time to watch this. I would appreciate any and all comments and criticisms you have for the deck. Good or bad, I just want to hear some feedback, because feedback is how you become a better player and a better deck builder, and it generates discussion in this community, and I love this community, which is why I want to make content for it. So again, leave a like if you liked this video. If you disliked it because I run max copies of Ring, Paragus, Bio Warrior, and you just think I'm a scrub, that's fine. Hit the dislike, I understand that. Just please leave me a comment with what you would change and why. The why is the most important part to me. I hope to see a lot of you in Connecticut. I think I'll be going with Team Jankhouse, my buddies Crispy and Eric. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I know I kind of upload videos sort of infrequently, and I apologize for that. Adulting gets in the way. But I'd like to take the time over the summer to contribute more content like deck profiles and match videos. After Hartford, I'll probably do a tournament report, so please keep an eye out for that. If you're looking for a list of this deck, then go to dbsdecks.com, dbs-decks.com. I'll post a link in this video description to my deck list so you can get like a price point from PPG and some other kind of like metadata for the deck. Thank you guys. Again, thank you so much for watching. Now I'm rambling. I'm going to shut up. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go play some Dragon Ball card game.